now that you got your hinges screwed in, this is where a buddy comes in handy again, because you need to put your bolts on the reverse side and you don't have your cable on yet, and if you let this lid fall all the way back, it's going to damage probably not only your hinges, but it's going to damage your bag as well. So basically put on a washer, and we got lock nuts which work good because these do get some vibration. If you use a standard nut, not a non-locking nut, make sure that you Loctite it. Hold it from the back side. Now remember, you're dealing with fiberglass here. This is not steel. So when you're tightening it up, you want to tighten it up just to tight. You don't want to over tighten it. If you start to hear a crackling, that means that you're actually breaking or compressing the fiberglass, and that's not necessary. Okay, now when you install the inside bolts here behind your seal, remember how I said if it's okay if you drill through the back side of the seal? It actually helps out because the excess bolt gets buried in the seal. But just go ahead and peel it back a little bit. It'll stick back down later. Now, if you use your lock nut, it actually is pretty thick and it may keep it from closing properly. So what I like to do is use a non-locking nut. It's a little bit thinner, but as I mentioned to you earlier, if you're not using lock nuts, put a little bit of Loctite on there. Set it on there, screw it, and then you're probably going to have to use a wrench to tighten these ones up. These are a little thinner than the lock nuts, and that way it doesn't bind. So again, a little Loctite is always good, especially if you don't use a locking nut and because of the vibration. Okay, we got all our bolts on our hinges. Just make a note that sometimes, depending on the thickness of your fiberglass, you may have a difficult time getting on the nut. You also notice that I don't have washers on this because it's so narrow in here you can't always fit a washer on. That's fine, just make sure you put Loctite on. But if the fiberglass back here is too thick and you can't screw your nut on, sometimes you have to, with the nut off, you have to take a scraper or something sharp and kind of scrape out the fiberglass behind the nut in order for it to get it started, and then screw it from the other side. Then once you're done there, just kind of push your seal back down on it. It'll kind of re-adhere itself over the bolts. Okay, next we're going to install our cable. That way we prevent it from the lid opening too far and damaging. First thing you want to do is you got your seat back here. There are different styles. This is the one we chose today for this. Also, depending on your style, these bolts may be narrower. Okay, now as mentioned before, there's pre-made dimples here for your holes, but you got to make sure before you drill them that your particular pad matches up. So you just kind of line it up there. This particular one does. It lines up with all the dimple holes, so I don't need to mark it. I can use these holes. You got two different brackets. You got an upper and lower cable bracket. The upper bracket has 4 holes, same as it has 4 dimples here. Okay, that's so that your seat back holds on your upper bracket as well as some of the small bolts. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and drill our holes. Again, our seat back matches up these dimples, so we can go ahead and use them. Use the same 30 or 1/8 inch drill. Now this one up here's got 4, remember? 2 of them are going to be bigger, but you can go ahead and use your 30 or 1/8 inch drill for a pilot hole. Then we'll come back and drill the 6 for your seat back larger. Okay, now that we got our pilot holes drilled, remember we're only gonna open up the 6 bottom ones. Use a 1/4 inch drill. That's for your seat back. Your 2 top ones here will take your small nuts. I like to kind of get it started like that. Again, be careful not to bottom out your drill. Go ahead and drill all 6 bottom ones. Okay, this is your bottom cable bracket. It goes in the inside, but again, don't always rely on the dimples. Lay it up there. Looks like the dimples line up pretty good, so you can go ahead and mark it if you want, just to make sure. But as you can see, the dimples line up real well. So now we're just going to go ahead and use the same number 30 1/8 inch drill. Go ahead and drill off 4 holes. Okay, we're going to install the lower bracket. There's actually a second plate that goes on the exterior that just gives you some additional support so that your bolts aren't bolting straight on your fiberglass, just like on your hinges. Go ahead and put your bolts through first. Looked like they lined up pretty good. Okay, now I got my bolts started. One of the holes isn't lining up. It's pretty common, so you just basically go from the back side, run it through a little bit. Then go ahead and put your bolt back through. Okay, once you get them all through, basically just put your washer and your lock nut on there and tighten it back up. Okay, now we just go ahead and put on our nuts. It's not necessary to use a washer because your nut's going right up against a steel plate. So again, you're dealing with fiberglass here. Even though you got 2 panels, metal panels, you're sandwiching fiberglass. So just tighten them up, snug. If you hear a little crack, stop. Okay, now we're going to install our upper bracket. Use the small screws that are supplied. On this one you want to use a washer because there's no plate that goes on the outside. Okay, then just like the bottom one, line up the small holes. Big hole should be on the bottom. Run your screws through. And again, it's not necessary here to use a washer because you've got a steel plate acting as your washer. Okay, now we're going to install our cable. Some of them have these little spring washers, others use a nylon washer. They basically serve the same purpose. Install your cable. The spring washer or the nylon washer so that your bolt doesn't tighten all the way up on your cable. Pretty simple there. There are also different styles of cables too. They all work basically the same. Okay, goes our cable. Now you can see it keeps it from opening up all the way. That way it will prevent any further damage. So we're all set with our cable.